So this was kind of a shock to see because it's a little refreshing. It's different to see like something like this coming out of CBR.com because usually this is the opposite stance they would take on a subject like this. Usually they would be defending Watchmen, aka Wokemen. They would be all about it. Saying, well, it didn't make these numbers here for this episode, but these are the reasons why. And it's still a success because of X, Y, and Z. They're not doing that this time. They actually have an article here breaking down why Watchmen wasn't as popular as you think. I never thought it was popular. It had a niche group that watched it every single week. That was it. And most of them watched it to hate on it. I swear the only people that were watching it weekly were probably like Nerdrotic and Overlord DVD, Mr. Debunking himself. So I never thought this show was popular. A lot of the woke crowd was loving it, and that's for obvious reasons. But most normal people were like, what is this trash? And you're going to see that because they're going to break it down. Now, they call the audience that watched it a geekier audience. Now, we don't know if that's true. Watchmen's actually a very mainstream book. I don't think a lot of people realize how mainstream Watchmen is. I mean, there's a lot of college courses that will actually assign Watchmen. I mean, this depends on the class, but I know people that were, taking like law classes, criminal classes, stuff like that, and they were reading Watchmen as part of the curriculum. It's a very popular book, a very good book. But I'm just pointing out, it's not just geeks like they point out here that read Watchmen. So maybe they were interested in this show. I think there's a lot of confusion too because I guarantee you more people watched the movie Watchmen from Zack Snyder than have ever read the book. And anybody that just watched that movie came into this show confused as hell. And then don't forget you also had the DC Universe Doomsday Clock series, which I think was vastly superior. Much better sequel to Watchmen, in my opinion. The show, I like the name people were giving it, Wokemen. I think that was a much better name to give the show. But it seems that, once again, you go woke, you get broke. And we're going to see that. So HBO Watchmen seemed like a massive hit. Everywhere you looked, there were podcasts and articles breathlessly going into every detail of the show, trying to figure out where the story was going to go, how it connected to the comics, and every little detail hidden in the background and backstory. Watchmen had the internet captivated with its every episode. It seemed that you're only counting your fellow shill podcasts and your fellow shill articles. Okay, this is articles from your own website and other woke websites like IGN, Nerdist. It was websites like that were praising the show. That's why I'm honestly kind of surprised to see this article because it goes against what they've been pushing for a while, that this show is a massive hit and needed a sequel, like a second season, really badly, desperately needed it. So I'm surprised that they're admitting that it went broke here. They're not calling it Get Woke, Get Broke, let's be clear. But this is a start. It's a start to admit the show is a disaster. So, except that was a bit of an illusion, talking about the success of the show. Well, it was a big hit among the nerd audience. That didn't translate to the massive success that HBO was hoping it would be. Looking at the actual viewership numbers and comparing that to other HBO successes, it's pretty clear that Watchmen was a niche show. Big with the geekier audience, but not registering outside of that. Now, calling it the geekier audience, like I said, this show is... Watchmen is a mainstream book. It's not just for geeky people. It gets around. A lot of people talk about it. It's hailed as a very fine piece of literature. So I don't buy that it's just a geekier audience. This show had a lot of problems. Okay, being a sequel to a comic book that does draw a lot of the audience out. You can't really... I mean, a lot of people are going to walk into the show like, what is this? Like, I don't even understand the backstory here, That was always a question about this show, is how many people know what's going on, because it's not a sequel to the Zack Snyder movie. It's a sequel to the actual comic book. And that never got any kind of a live adaptation. So it presents problems. That's what they should have done. They should have just adapted the comic book, do an episode, an issue. That's what they should have done. That would have been a lot cooler, but they didn't do that. Instead, they did Wokeman. Yeah, that was a smart move. So anyway, the most obvious comparable ratings to look at are from Game of Thrones and Westworld. For both of these, the numbers are taken from the show's first seasons, but the only fair way to compare them, since later seasons had the hype of the prior season to help boost the ratings. For some fun, let's also throw in Little Big Lies, which isn't in the same genre, but went from a planned miniseries to bringing it back for a second season. Here's how their ratings compare to Watchmen. So as you can see here, the numbers do not lie. Here are the averages for the first season of all 4 shows, and you can see that Watchmen Season 1 never cracks 1 million. Every other show does. Game of Thrones, of course, doing the best at 2. Man, how that show fell. Man, I love that show. But, I could never recommend that show to anybody because of how it ends. It's like it starts off so good, and it stayed good, but as soon as they ran out of books, that show went to hell. They really should have just waited till he finished the books, or they should have just put the show on indefinite hiatus until he finished the book that's coming out. And I think maybe finally this year it's going to come out, or next year. So he says. George R.R. Martin is lazy dude. He procrastinates for years. I don't think this series is ever going to be finished, to be honest. But anyway, you can see the numbers right there. They don't lie. Watchmen Season 1 did not do very well. In fact, we should just call it Watchmen because there's not going to be a Season 2. It's not getting picked back up. So, the same general trend holds across other ratings measurements. Watchmen was behind each of those shows in the ratings by a fair margin if you look at Watchmen's average by episode. It is going up by the end, but the same also applied to all of those shows. The viewer numbers simply weren't there for as much online buzz as there was about the show. That's 100% true. And what I like about this, okay, they're talking about the online buzz. Okay, where's that online buzz coming from? It's coming from CBR. It's coming from Nerdist, IGN, all of these shill sites that praise and love woke trash. They love woke trash. But this is what I like that they don't admit here. So CBR and all these trash websites, when they promote something, it doesn't equal to any kind of views. It doesn't equal out to anything. They're basically admitting here that they have no power, and things that they recommend and things that they hate, they don't amount to shit. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about CBR's opinion. Nobody cares about IGN's opinion. This is why these websites are all dying, and they know they're dying. That's why they regularly attack people on YouTube. Look what happened with old DC, Mr. Doomcott. Look what happened with him. Remember when he was talking about Captain Marvel 2 rumors? Apparently he had an insider, right? They didn't like that. And one of the reasons why I think that all the stuff he was saying then was true is because look how Inverse went after him. All these show websites, maybe a little bit of a tinfoil of hat talking here, but it's not that crazy to me because these websites are shills that somebody that works for Disney probably sent him a message, yo, attack him. Didn't work out very well. In fact, it grew his channel. They don't understand how that works, It ends up blowing their channel up, whoever they attack. So, these people, they're all shills. Nobody cares about their opinions. And when they go all in on something, it never amounts to more views or sales for the product because nobody cares about these sites. They're all dying, and they know it. And personally, I think it'll be a good thing when these sites are gone. So that's not a criticism of Watchmen or an endorsement of the 3 other shows. It's simply how many people were watching it compared to the others, and the numbers weren't that high compared to other high-profile show launches on HBO in recent memory. This may also have been a factor in why HBO decided not to renew the show for a second season, you think? I'd say that was a major factor, that the ratings were trash. They could have broken from the intended 9-episode miniseries, but the creator Damien Lindroff has been iffy on it. It's because they know they're not bringing it back. Here's the truth. They were 100% going to bring back Watchmen for a second season. The way the end of the show was set up for a second season. The problem is nobody was tuning in. And let's be clear, we don't have all of the numbers here. We don't know how long people watched an episode on average. You know, we don't know these things. Did they even finish it? You know, Netflix was boasting about people watched The Witcher for 2 minutes. You know, we don't know what they consider a success. We don't. And that's another thing. But I do know this. Numbers don't lie. People weren't tuning in for this show like they wanted. And it just feeds the bottom line. And that is, if you go woke, you go broke. And it's funny to see CBR admitting kind of that that's true. At least in some form. So anyway, that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching. Throw me a comment if you would. Tell me your thoughts on this. Also, share the video. Throw a like up. That would be appreciated as well. And make sure you're still subscribed. Hit that notification bell. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Also, if you want to help support the channel, check out my Teespring store. There's a link in the description. You can find some merchandise in there that you might want to check out. Also, take a moment. Make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. There's something going on right now, and they've been unsubscribing people. So just take a second and double check on that and subscribe if you're new.